The National Pork Producers Council warns that new guidance issued by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration on the use of antibiotics in livestock and poultry production will have a significant impact on pork producers. The FDA guidance, first proposed in June of 2010, calls for antibiotics that are medically important to humans to be used in animals only when necessary to assure their health. NPPC Chief Veterinarian Dr. Liz Wagstrom says that while the guidance doesn't have the force of law, it may be treated as such by the FDA.
The guidance is going to change things for producers with antibiotic use in two ways. First is that FDA has said that any production uses, which they define as either growth promotion or improvement of nutritional efficiency, any of those uses are considered injudicious. And over the next 3 years, they're going to work with animal health sponsors, the drug companies that make these products, to do away with those labels. They would still keep disease prevention, control, and treatment labels in place. The second thing this guidance does is it says that any antibiotics that are in classes used in human medicine, which for pork production is most of the antibiotics that we use, that those antibiotics must be used under veterinary oversight. To kind of put a twist into that, they can't make them prescription drugs because these are usually antibiotics that are delivered in feed, so they would have to move to what's called a veterinary feed directive. Works kind of like a prescription. The veterinarian needs to fill out an order that the producer would then take to the feed mill to be able to buy medicated feed.
FDA says it will work with animal health companies to help them voluntarily discontinue the sale to livestock and poultry producers of antibiotics that are labeled for nutritional efficiency.
This is really significant. FDA says it's voluntary, but I think the way to describe it is that voluntary is relative and you're working with a regulatory agency. On the call that FDA had with industry stakeholders today, they made it very clear that at the end of this 3-year period, when they evaluate what progress has been made with companies voluntarily giving up their labels, that if they aren't satisfied with the movement away from growth promotional labels, they will take more action.
Wagstrom says the end result of the guidance is this.
Bottom line of what we expect after FDA's decision today on Guidance 209 and the moving everything to veterinary feed directive is if we look at the example of what happened in Denmark, we're going to have more sick pigs. We may have more dead pigs. We know it's going to cost producers more to produce those pigs. It may result in higher cost to consumers and likely not result in any demonstrable public health benefit. So, to me, the bottom line is if we thought this was going to help public health, pork producers would have been all over this and probably done away with growth promotion and nutritional efficiency uses years ago. But we don't see a likelihood that public health will benefit, and we know that animal health may actually be negatively impacted.
Wagstrom is confident, though, that a new study by Kansas State University shows that opponents of antibiotic use in livestock production wildly overestimate the amount given to food animals. Using data from previous swine surveys, K-State found about 1.6 million pounds of antibiotics are used annually in pork production for growth promotion, nutritional efficiency, and disease prevention. That compares to a 2001 report from the Union of Concerned Scientists, which claimed more than 10 million pounds of antibiotics were being used each year. Wagstrom says the K-State study confirms what they've known all along, that opponents have deliberately peddled misinformation about the use of antibiotics in livestock.
This is a great study. It shows that when you actually have people who know how pigs are raised, know how much they eat every day, know how many antibiotics, the dosage level that would be used, and for the duration it would be used, that you can get to some pretty good estimates. So what we had with the former estimates that were done by the Union of Concerned Scientists were people who didn't know how much a pig ate in a day, didn't know how long it spent in the nursery versus the finisher. They estimated that we used hundreds of thousands of pounds of antibiotics that had never been sold in the United States. And as a result, they overestimated by several 100% how many antibiotics are actually fed to pigs.
Wagstrom says the K-State study will help pork producers and their customers answer consumer questions about antibiotics.
We've actually spent a lot of time understanding the study and spent some time talking with folks at FDA about the study, and they really view this study as an example of the types of estimates that they would like to see as kind of almost a gold standard for how you would estimate antibiotic use.
Several groups and lawmakers have pushed a theory that antibiotic use in food animals is leading to antibiotic resistance in humans. She says this study should be something the pork industry use to deflate fears being pushed by others who are against antibiotic use.
Well, I think this study is going to really help answer some of those questions that some of our customers and consumers may have. You may not be aware, but Mrs. Slaughter, who's been pushing legislation on this issue, actually sent out a letter a couple months ago to retailers and restaurants asking them about antibiotic use policies and antibiotic-free meats that they may serve and things like that. So I think a study like this is going to give our customers the ability to answer those tough questions about really how are antibiotics used, how much is used, and then I think it will serve as a baseline. So I would hope that going forward, the pork industry and the swine veterinarians and Kansas State would look at how could we continue to update this on a regular basis and see if we're continuing to improve antibiotic usage as we go forward.